are these people?
Everyone knows this guy. Favorite former terrorist turned suit-wearing, politician. Jolani of what people are quoting New Syria, right? And this is a Russian minister. We'll get to who exactly. But I was listening to a podcast with Vanessa Beeley, Fiorella, and something sparked my ears to perk up. And I pretty much did a what the fuck? Wait, what? And I immediately thought of Collin after what was said. So they're demanding reparations from Russia. So we'll get into it. So again, Syrian new leader Jolani met with Russia's deputy FM and demands Moscow give money and Assad. So yeah, things aren't great. Again, Fiorella Isabel, link in the description if you want to go find her Substack. But she writes, NATO and Israel's chosen puppet in Syria, Jolani, met with the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov at the People's Palace in Damascus to discuss various political and bilateral issues. The visit was set to aim at strengthening historical relations between the nations based on common interests. The usual diplomatic jargon, yes, but inside there's much more at play. During the meeting, Jolani and Bogdanov reportedly covered a variety of hot topics, from Syria's reconstruction and political reforms to the crucial role of Russian support in stabilizing the country. Both sides reportedly stressed the importance of keeping their bilateral ties strong and nurturing cooperations across different sectors, including Russia's potential role in Syria's economic recovery. With a focus on investments in infrastructure, energy, and trade, this despite the giant elephant in the room, that Russia has been fighting these exact terrorist factions for years. And much like the CIA, most terrorists don't ever reform 100%. There's no ex-CIA, is what she's telling you. Speaking to RT, Bogdanov said that Russia is keen on the unity, independence, and territorial integrity of Syria, as well as achieving reconciliation and social peace in the country. This follows recent talks between Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Qatari counterpart Mohammed al-Durrahman al-Thani, I hope, when they expressed support for Syria's sovereignty and stability, emphasizing a comprehensive settlement that benefits all Syrians. Except, of course, the one being killed and persecuted by the new Free Syria regime. This also follows a meeting between the Belarusian foreign minister and Jolani on the sidelines of Minsk's presidential election. So there's a lot of talk about this, right? Especially talks of Russia's bases in the region, and they don't necessarily want to just lose those. So that's part of this too. But I find these talks funny when Israel just spent most of their time blowing up all their weapon caches. So, it may not be, Russians might not be the ones to talk to about damages. But a Syrian source told Reuters that new leader Jabroni had requested that Moscow hand over foreign Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. So they're straight up asking for Assad, right? They're like, give us that motherfucker, we'll deal with him, right? So that's going to be that's not good, No. That goes against a lot of international rules. So, but yeah, who fled to Russia and is under humanitarian asylum. Syria's new leadership also demanded compensation from Russia during the meeting. Quote, the discussions highlighted Russia's role in rebuilding trust with the Syrian people through tangible actions like compensation, reconstruction, and recovery. The new government also emphasized that restoring relations must address past mistakes, said a statement from Damascus. So, and here's Newsweek, Syria demands reparations from Russia. Wow, they're asking Russia and not Israel for reparations for damage to Syria. Okay. Collin, thoughts?
Right idea, wrong country.
That's pretty much. So, yeah, not great. The statement, however, did not clarify the exact form of compensation being demanded, nor did it mention Russia's 2 key military bases in Syria. Bogdanov acknowledged that no progress has been made on this issue, stressing that further negotiations are needed. When asked to confirm whether Russia has been asked to return Assad and pay compensation, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov declined to comment. This comes as a video circulated by members of HCS Syria regime shows Russia angry at the HTS searching their vehicles in front of Russian bases, while the video gloats about humiliating them. So, there appear to be contradictory elements to this that would inadvertently discredit everything Russia has done for a long time in Syria, fighting against the terrorist factions now in power. Some of this, like asking for Assad, has not been fully commented on by Russian officials. However, the quick pace of Russia to recognize the new Syrian leadership indicates a desire to maintain their naval base in Tartus and Himam air base near the port city of Latakia. Having their bases in a vulnerable position leaves them out of Syria. Losing these doesn't seem like something Russia wants. However, they have moved some resources to Libya. The question of Russia giving up Assad, a strong ally, seems out of the question, but there's also the reports that this is the only way to keep their bases. While unlikely, such an action would be seen as entirely negative by the global south and just Assad's former allies, but other countries watching closely and betting that their alliances will matter or receive protection if such events like ever-present U.S.-backed coups were to occur with them. So that's the problem, right? The precedent that this sets for other countries might not be great. So,
Right.
But not only would working in line with its former enemies seem a blow to Russia, but it would put them once again even more reliant on Turkey and NATO. Russia truly doesn't need Syria as before, but what this does point out is how far Turkey, Erdogan, and an extent NATO have gone to manipulate Russia via the Black Sea Gray Corridor. Russia is still fighting a war with Ukraine and the collective West that backs and directs it, so cannot lose sight of this very thing. Now, these events bring back the conversation as to what was achieved during the infamous Doha meeting before the fall of Damascus. Turkish and Gulf media, for their part, have brazenly alluded to something happening between Russia, Turkey, and Israel. In one recent interview with an Arabic channel, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan referred to the specific relationship between Turkey and Russia, saying Ankara was essential for Moscow, and this would further polarize Iran, which would also prevent Turkey as a NATO member. He went as far to say Russia no longer needed Syria and made the pragmatic revision to abandon the relations with the former government. So, with all the developments, and there's much to wait and see, it is once again pointing to the fact that the non-aligned axis remains very behind the actions of the NATO bloc and collective West. While yes, the latter are sinking, Europe is a mess, and the US is no longer the unilateral dominating power, with China's undeniable rise technologically and economically. Beijing, Russia, and Iran, while powerful, are being hugely pressured in various ways. The action decisions they make will and have affected the relations with the rest of the non-aligned axis in the global south, who are not a powerful or poised to take on these pressures without a former alliance. So, once again, Fee reiterates the non-aligned axis is fighting an uphill battle when they're not in cohesion like their counterparts in the NATO collective West, leaving them one step behind. The phrase "you don't negotiate with terrorists" exists for a reason. I truly hope the red flags are as visible to others in leadership positions as they are to those of us closely watching. So, any thoughts before I add some secondary information?
Not at the moment.
Cool. So, this is by the Cradle, right? They say Syria's de facto authorities execute sweeping neoliberal reforms, and I want people to look at exactly what reforms they're making. So, the self-appointed transitional government of Syria is undertaking sweeping reforms, including privatizing state-run enterprises. What does that sound like? Sounds very familiar to what's happening here recently. Right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
it's happening, but
yes.
accelerating now.
Laying off a third of the public sector, as authorities say they are shifting to a, quote, competitive free market economy. What's that sound like, Care Bear?
capitalism. Yep.
Yeah. So, in an interview with Reuters, ex-official of Harat Tehran al-Sham, who are serving as cabinet ministers for transitional President Ahmad al-Shara, former ISIS and al-Qaeda commander Abu Mohammed al-Jolani, say they have a wide scope of plans to, quote, shrink the state, including removing thousands of ghost employees. Sounds very familiar right now. The goal is to balance private sector growth with support for the most vulnerable, Interim Minister of Finance Bazel Abdul Hanan told the British outlet. Hanan previously served as economic minister in Idlib's administration. During the time, the group financed an operations by imposing high taxes on citizens, including taxes on humanitarian aid delivered by the UN. Reports from Arabic media in 2022 disclosed that HTS authorities funded hundreds of millions of dollars into Turkey by confiscating humanitarian aid shipments and subsequently selling them on the black market. The Syrian officials also told Reuters that they want Syrian factories to serve as a launchpad for global exports. Again, more capitalism, especially towards the West. So, nonetheless, discontent is growing through Syria due to the layoffs, despite the assurances from Western-backed officials. My salary helps me manage basic needs like bread and yogurt to sustain the household. If this decision goes through, it will increase unemployment across society, stated Adham al-Abu al-Alaya, one of the many public sector workers currently on a 3-month paid leave while their job status is evaluated. The reforms also come as the country is gripped by a wave of sectarian killings and executions carried out by armed groups under the command of the Transitional Government Military Operations Department. On Wednesday, the Military Operations Department dissolved Syria's constitution, the People's Assembly, the National Army, security services, and all armed factions, including HTS, and named Shara president during a, quote, transitional phase. Shara and his acolytes are expected to hand over power to a new government in March, but it is unclear how the transition will happen. Moreover, in an interview with Al Arabia last month, Shara said that holding elections could take up to 4 years. Sounds very similar to Zelensky's excuses. Rewriting the country's constitution could take 3. So they're saying, oh yeah, we'll have elections, but, that might take a minute. So, in the meantime, I'm sure they'll lay waste to the country. So, but
right.
Despite that uncertainty, Western nations are moving full steam ahead to lift economic sanctions that have devastated Syria's economy for over a decade. We are closely monitoring the situation, and we stand ready to support the international community's efforts to assist Syria's reconstruction as needed and when conditions allow, the International Monetary Fund said last month, just days after the Turkish-backed coup ousted President Bashir al-Assad. So that also sounds familiar coming up to our last segment. So, tale as old as time, pretty much, as they say.
Overtake.
Yes.
Overtake the old regime, replace it with a puppet for the, for the occupying regime to basically do the work, like
eat up all the resources. Resources.
Right.
So
and kind of filtering a lot of Western bullshit.
Oh, for sure.
To destabilize their economy
in
our favor. And
Iraq too, Iran too, like pretty much same shit, different area. So yeah. I mean, and this is partially why I think that there's resistance will be very difficult without Syria. So, and the fact that, Russians essentially, I think, cut their losses here, to deal with one problem, so I've not heard anything as far as like retakes of the country. I still think that might be a possibility, especially when Assad is still around, which is, I think, why Syria wants them,
Right.
So, because he can still gather a ton of support. And maybe they're waiting to deal with Ukraine and then, objection, speculation, So I don't want to get too speculative, but yeah. So stay tuned. Go follow Fee. Links in the description. She'll give you what's up as we move forward. But I think that's it. Anything you want to add, Care Bear?
I think I'm good. As you said, you might tell us all this time.
Yep.
Just in another area of the world,
people?
and
hey, look at that,
Sean.
For the boys, great coverage. Appreciate you, Sean. If you're like Sean,
oh, by the way, Sean, Sean is like, we have to give a shout out to him because Sean, like, the last few weeks is money bags.
Very generous.
Like,
Appreciate
just giving, every week, at least for the last few weeks, just bringing us $20. So we really appreciate it. And thank you. You're definitely one of our MVPs as far as your monetary assistance to us and the network. So thank you.
I said thank you very much.
Cool. And if you're like Sean and you want to support stories like these that get us demonetized, you can go to co-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, scan that QR code on your screen, or as always, it's in the description below. And if you can't do that, very easy. There's little buttons down there right under the video that there's a little thumbs up. Hit that. Go to the share button. Go click that. Right? Share it with your friends. Subscribe. Big red subscribe button. You should be able to see it if you've not done it already. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We don't know. We rely on you to know things. But otherwise, thanks for watching.